Ian Golden. I'm 40 years old, have 2 daughters, live in Ithaca, New York. Been some degree of a competitive runner since I was 14. I think I was a competitive swimmer before that, so some level into athletics for some amount of time. I enjoy the mountains, I enjoy rivers, I enjoy the smell of water, I enjoy intrinsic challenges, I enjoy being around people, even if I'm somewhat introverted to a certain extent.
Tommy Hayward. I'll be 40 years old in June, and I grew up right here, just a few miles to the east of us. Pretty simple guy, I guess. Went to school right over the hill. Got into farming, basically my whole younger years. Worked for a couple local farms right here. That's just a country boy, I guess, pretty much. Simple. My first exposure to Ian was a long-haired, short guy that had just gone on well, I think I first met him at a little race in Ithaca. From there, I guess our friendship kind of blossomed. He's a sincere guy, there's no doubt there, and he has a passion too. Spend a minute with him and you can feel it. And I just seen that community. It's just, like I said, it's a special community. And he's a huge part of it.
So I'm Natalie Thompson. I'm from Rochester, New York, upstate New York. I've never been super competitive because I tried track in high school and I really hated the gun that would go off at the start of every race. It was very scary to me, so I only lasted about 1 year. Plus I got in with the crowd who liked to skip the actual practices and just go back to people's houses and eat potato chips and popcorn. Yeah, running in high school wasn't too much. I played a lot of other sports. So when I moved back to upstate New York, that race is in April, and I moved back in March, and I was really sad about it because I wasn't going to be able to run Yakima that year. This was 2015. But so I searched around. I knew Ian Golden, who's puts on these Red Newt Racing events, and I knew him because in college I used to buy shoes off of him from his running shop in Ithaca. And I knew he was a good guy. I knew he hosted Cayuga Trails 50, and I always thought that would be cool to run because it was like my alma mater town. So I checked in to see what Ian was doing with his races and see if there were any like Finger Lakes Running Club races, and I found this race the same day as Yakima, and the race was called Breakneck Ridge. So I went down, took myself down to Beacon, New York area.
We are in Beacon, New York, at the few hundred yards off the start line of the Breakneck 2017.
Event 1 of the season, about to kick off with Breakneck Point. We're in Beacon, New York, about 45 miles straight north of New York City, right in the Hudson Valley. We've got the Hudson Valley behind the camera as it stands now, and behind me we've got Hudson Highlands State Forest and the range that runs through it.
Last year wasn't the best for me. I'm looking for a little redemption, I guess. We're going to call it Redemption 2017 for this particular race. Looking to stay physically healthy.
With Mountain Peak Fitness, Elizabeth Az coached me to run Breakneck last year, but she put up with me and she had me go through some really good workouts, and I think the way she helped me out was really, really spot on. So I felt like I ran really well at Breakneck last year. I did the marathon instead of the half, and we were gearing up to go for the 50 at Cayuga Trails, but I sprained my ankle at Breakneck and tore 2 ligaments pretty solidly, and really only just came back to running a couple months ago.
It's important to me to retain somewhat of a grassroots feel to trail racing. And some of the bigger races that I've been to that just have bigger numbers, I feel like that's lost. And where there may be more economic gain from it, just not necessarily where I want to take the event.
It starts out with a little teaser, like 3.5 mile kind of a fire access road run, and then it gets real fast at the base of the first big climb. And that's kind of a chin on the rock type stuff, kind of bony, rocky. A lot of it's runnable if you're able to take some risks.
Breakneck Point is in namesake is a signature point that is about mid-course, and it's 1,200 feet over 3/4 of a mile or something to that effect. Big boulders, pretty much straight up, sections where you're literally climbing. Something that I rarely see in areas with course potential. So it was like, yeah, this is it, this is amazing. And the more I got into it, I found more of those pitches out here, and a really pretty extensive network of trails linking them. A course that has 10,000 feet of gain over the marathon, a little bit over, 5,000 feet for the half marathon. And it's just burly. I mean, there's some really payoff, beautiful vistas or exposed sections, sections that put most people out of their comfort zone in terms of technicality. Other sections where you've got some single track next to a few 100-foot cliff drop-off, so good exposure.
Breakneck climb is one of the biggest highlights. It's not a super crazy long climb, but it's just so fun. It's just this rock scramble, and you get to the top. It's literally like a hand-over-foot rock scramble. And then you get to the top, and you have these sweeping views of the Hudson River, and there's tons of beautiful rolling hills down here. So it's just awesome to get up there and catch that view and sort of be rewarded for your hard work.
I'd recommend anybody just to come out and just hike some of it. And if you want to run it, then run it, because it's a super great feeling when you come down off this hill right here and you see that finish on the back of that banner. So the day was good. It basically unfolded as I wanted it right here. It's like 3.5 miles coming down, and they wouldn't go by quite as fast as I'd like them to, but they definitely it's enjoyable. Chatted with a few folks coming down, and just kind of turn it up and try to crank out some quick miles to get back in here and get it over with at that point in time. There's no tears to cry.
Cayuga, I think Cayuga really started conceptually when I was running in college, late 90s, early 2000s. There are certain stretches that came through Robert H. Treman State Park, which I just really loved to run, and they weren't the stretches that were necessarily associated with waterfalls and the gorges. It was just really flowy single track that I really enjoyed. When I moved back to Ithaca in 2005, a couple years afterward, my wife and I bought a house just outside of Robert H. Treman State Park, and so on a relatively regular basis we were able to run down through the park, and it was already some amazing, beautiful trails, waterfalls, single track, some double track. Really enjoyed it. So it became more personal, I think, at that point. I wanted it to be a good blend of a fairly competitive field with all the way back to just a beautiful course that anybody of any level could enjoy. So I think it was our first year, I think, even. It's either first year or second year. I think we started as a U.S. 50-mile trail national championship, and we have been since. And I think this year was maybe our 5th year, something to that effect. And it's gone pretty well, and it's done that. It's had some pretty fast top fields. It's been a world team qualifier. and the U.S. Again championship for 50 mile. And it's good, but it's really, I think it's, beyond just the competitive sense, it's just a really beautiful course. And so I think that's what has people coming back. I had a lot of people really wanting to run the course and run the event, but weren't up for 50 miles and had been asking me for years. So last year I added the marathon into the mix just to give them a piece of it. So now it's a 50 mile and a marathon.
I ran the little guy, the 25 miler. So it was only one loop of the full course. And it was really cool. So I went to college in Ithaca. That's how I know Ian. And I've run most of those trails on the Cayuga Trails course, but I'd never actually connected Treeman to Buttermilk. So that section was new to me. But I thought it was really awesome. And again, I just wasn't totally trained up for marathon distance at the time, but it was still a really good race, and it was really challenging. I mean, for me at that time, it was challenging to run the full 24, 25 miles, or 20, I guess it was actually 20, I guess it was closer to 27. And it's hilly, but the hills are all runnable, so it's like, it's never really so steep that you can't run. And so that's like a different challenge unto itself. But beautiful. I mean, it's just a beautiful area, and Ian does a really nice job of highlighting some of the like arguably best spots in the area, at least that you could access with a trail race. But the gorges are phenomenal, and it's a great place to just spend a long weekend if you're going to go for the race.
It was just typical Cayuga, beautiful day. The course is not easy. Stairs sneak up on you. There's thousands of them throughout the day. There's going to be, again, part of the championship series, so there's going to be some pros, some elites coming through it are just awesome to be a part of and watch. I had a goal of 10 hours. I think I finished in 11 hours and 33 minutes. The race pretty much went off without a hitch. Training was well planned out. Nutrition worked out well, and it's fun. It's just the atmosphere that these races bring is second to none. It's just awesome.
Right now we're in Wilmington, New York for the Whiteface Skyraces, 2-day event. Today is Saturday. It's the Vertical K. It's a point-to-point race from basically the bottom of the mountain to the top of the ski resort. Gains about 3,200 feet over 2.4 miles, I think it is. And then it's followed up tomorrow, Sunday, with the Sky Race, which will be about 15 miles with roughly 8,500 feet of gain, which is just a couple times up the mountain.
Basically, you start right over my right shoulder here, and you head up on top. It's about 2.4 miles straight up. It's one of those races where you start out down here and it's nice and 65 and kind of sunny, and then when you get up there you can barely see, cloud cover, rain. I would say that it's people probably are deceived by it only being 2.4 miles and the whole VK thing, but you know very quickly about 100 yards out of the start gate that it is you signed up for something real. It's gnarly. It's rocky, water running over the rocks, granite face. You're exposed all the way up through there. Definitely the East Coast running. There's no doubt there. We're going to summit that twice and then kick out on a little flume loop and then come back in. It's going to be a battle.
Today I would describe it as brutal, but it's actually pretty cool. I mean, and so today's ascents were really just straight up, like in true Sky Marathon fashion.
Now, fails and turns to luck, words I'm making it seems.
And yeah, going up the mountain the second time is like a real, it'll break you a little bit.
Whiteface, I think, just has more vertical gain than I think any resort east of the Rockies, I believe. So just happened to be, it was, you know, one of the closer big resorts to me, but it also has a lot of gain and steep terrain. And I think we've got more gain per mile than anything on the US Sky Series, which is pretty cool coming out of New York. We may not necessarily have the altitude, but we definitely give them a lot of gain per mile.
Flume Loop is actually really nice. I think it's really runnable trail. It's pretty, and it's still pretty challenging, even though it's relatively flat. A lot of ups and downs.
You know, awesome weather, good quality time with, you know, the family, and with that, the whole Newt Racing community. That the reason why I'm standing here today, just because of that. It's a good feeling to know that you can step out on a Saturday, go run with friends on a competitive level, or just go out and run and know that that it's like a family.
Lucifer's Crossing, which uses Robert H. Treeman, uses just one of my favorite loops in Ithaca. We have it somewhat in form on Cayuga Trails, but there's also a lot of runners that don't necessarily want to run a 50-mile or even a marathon. And I also wanted to use it as another kind of pretty low-key race. I mean, there's definitely some events in the Red Newt lineup which are higher production value, more stress, more intensity. And I wanted to put on some that didn't necessarily feel that way. And so I've created Lucifers to just be that, lower key. It's about, a billet is 6.66 miles. It's somewhere around there, give or take.
So as of an hour.
And it's just a beautiful course. I mean, you ascend the gorge trail through Treeman, passing numerous waterfalls, the historic stone staircases, emerge in the Lucifer's Falls Gorge. And then you cross over for just a really wonderful section of flowy single track coming back down.
But it's only 6 miles, and so you basically just run the thing as fast as you can, and then it's over, and you don't have to do a second loop or do another loop in a different park. It was just an awesome run. I think I kind of surprised myself at how fast I was able to do it. At least fast, it felt fast for me. But it's basically just one long stair climb. You get to the top, and then you do a tiny traverse, and then you come back down the other side of the gorge. And it's a really, really beautiful place. Just super awesome, super fast. And I guess you would say a pretty hard run, like kind of your lungs are on fire kind of the whole time if you're really pushing it. So that was really fun for me because I usually do things that are at least 15 miles, if not longer, in terms of racing. So it was awesome to push myself in a race setting for 6 miles.
Watch your back.
And with a big burrito feast afterward. I was looking at a late fall race. I wanted to be a 50K, and I wanted to pull off a single track. For me, by the time I got to the fall season when the leaves are down, I just feel like there's too much injury risk in taking shots with covered over roots and rocks, and so I wanted something that wasn't really technical. So that's where Water Gap fit in. I initially went down to Water Gap looking at more of the trails that were down there to potentially make something gnarlier, not even necessarily as late in the season. But the recreation area turned me on, the staff did, to the McDade Trail, which is just, it's basically like a rail trail, even though it wasn't a rail trail. hard packed cinder surface, pretty mild, only one small climb up around I think like 6 or 7 miles, but otherwise it's pretty flat. There's a section of maybe 2.5 miles, a single track late in the race, but otherwise it's a really mild all-comers course. And it's really that. So if people want to build up to their first 50K, I think it's a great opportunity to do that. It's a beautiful course. It runs along the Delaware River through the Delaware Water Recreation area. But then for those who are just looking for a fast 50K as well, it suffices there. So I think it's a pretty good mixed event, and I think people have enjoyed it as well.
So it's pretty much 31 miles without obstruction along the river, and you don't necessarily see the river the entire time, but you know that it's there, and you're otherwise in like pretty beautiful woodsy areas, and then sometimes in like sort of these long open meadows or fields. And we were kind of pushing each other together in the beginning, and it was nice to have people to run with. So for me, it was a really challenging run because for pretty much as long as I've been in trail and ultra running, I've done races where you physically have to stop and hike at some point, or stop and like lower yourself off of a descent. So this one was hard for me to just run and just keep running. I mean, all told, yeah, it was a really good race, and I'm glad that I did it, and I would do it again. But it's definitely a race for runners.
Also one where I just wanted another low-key, just fun event to put on. I like the concept of uphill races, but also like the concept of downhill races where, you know, yeah, they're hard on the quads and the body in some regards, but it's obviously fun to run fast. So it does. So from where we're standing, it starts a few miles as the crow flies in that direction.
And he basically throws you in the back of a non-warmed up bus and takes you up the road 5 miles and drops you off, and see at the bottom it's a quick downhill, a couple miles of road, and then you're on this rec trail for the last 3.
And then does 3 miles on a rail trail, hard packed gravel surface. Pretty much all downhill, as the name suggests.
It's a cool little course, point to point, which is kind of unique for a 5 miler for a short race.
And it's pretty fast, so if somebody wants to come out and just run fast as much as their quads will handle, that's it. But my real intention was to create inspirational races in beautiful places, so I wanted them to be destination-worthy events, and then to bring in, I think, people that are good with something that has maybe more of a traditional lower-key vibe to them. I mean, some of them have high production value. Again, we have some that are national championships, but I also wanted to have a personal, low-key vibe to them.
You know, depending on where you live, be prepared to travel a little bit. But again, that's sort of the beauty and the journey of doing a Red Newt race, is getting to potentially go to a new place or go to a place that's, you know, familiar to you, that you really enjoy, and you haven't been there in a while, and it's a nice excuse to go. I think one of his ultimate goals as a human being is to just provide what he can for his community. And I think he definitely does that through the Red Newt races. He provides an opportunity for athletes, for nature lovers, for people new to the sport of hiking or running or trail running, to come together, to be with good friends, bring their families along, come to a beautiful place, and just enjoy each other, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the adventure. So that really is something that's for anybody, but certainly for people who love to be outside and be with good folks.
I think it tends to be more of just a communal group, I think, like trail runners can be. It's also a little bit more laid back vibe, and that's really, I think, my hope. Again, I guess we get a mixture of people, but it definitely feels like that's more of the concentration of the family feel.
I wouldn't be personally where I am right now without having this Red Newt race community. There's no doubt. The people that I've met over the last couple of years, and then this year really just focusing just on the R&R races, it's made me, you know, the athlete, I guess, if that's what you want to say, or the runner in the community that I am, and just it inspires you. I mean, the people that it draws, I can't say enough for, you know, the people that are involved in setting races up and the tireless times that are put into making events click off. It's awesome. It's like an emotional connection for me. I mean, I get like chills when, and kind of get not so much choked up, but it means a lot to me. Like, I don't know what I would do without having, you know, that race community to fall on and to, you know, blow off some steam and go out and enjoy 5 miles or 50 miles.
It's up game, I feel like going home now. Now, fails and turns to luck, words I'm making it